What's up, my boy?
From that city with juice, ain't no pity or truces. When we dip and gun smoke's conclusive. Don't act clueless, hella foolish in the 90s. And GP shotgun when we ride. Solid on the yard, name hard on these streets. Dim my crimes, gangster rhymes on dope beats. Still fuck laws, ain't no pause in our demeanor. Rest in peace, Muggsy and my road dog creeper. Ways to put it down, no fear of new cases. Years ago, though, it was guns and chases. 714 on my shoulders, kept it active. Roll like soldiers, G-code ain't passive. Still macking ratchet, still packed at the waist. Still stacking racks, still flash when they hate. Now it's podcasts and videos with pretty hoes. Me and George banging orange till the city's known, really though.
OG way. We keep it moving smooth like every day. Every day. They gonna know that homie, we don't play. It's going down for sure, for sure.
Real G's in this industry.
So they gonna how we do it on these streets for sure. Streets for sure. We make that green, don't you know, loco. We making moves all day, all day, all day, all day.
Grew up in the streets of the LB. We don't love these hoes, what they tell me. Packed up and moved to the OC. Me and George ballin' like Shaq and Kobe. Fuck bitches, get money, living wealthy. Bad bitches screaming, let me get a selfie. Big stomps, GP, some real G's. Side dick is the general of an army. XG podcasting in the morning. Don't say F.A., here's your warning. That other bullshit be boring. With some goofy ass question that's corny. Tommy, let me finish my story. Shooting shots, game 6, rubber or red. Smoking blunts in the bus while I'm touring. Now welcome to George Perez Stories.
OG way. We keep it moving smooth like every day. Every day. They gonna know that homie, we don't play. It's going down for sure, for sure.
Real G's in this industry.
So they gonna how we do it on these streets for sure. Streets for sure. We make that green, don't you know, loco. We making moves all day, all day, all day, all day.
Welcome to the George Perez Stories.
What's up, my boy? George Perez right here of George Perez Stories, episode 323. It's kind of weird because Michael Jordan did three-peat 2 times, and it's three-peat with 23. It's just a little choloism for you guys right there. George Perez Stories is brought to you by J.B. & Sons Tree Service Landscape and Installation. Look, everybody, if you got squirrels that are doing pull-ups on your tree, you got butterflies with tattoos, and your yard needs work, hit up my boys at J.B. & Sons Tree Service Landscape and Installation. They specialize in tree trimming, trunk removal, stump removal. I said Trump removal. No, they got papers, so you don't got to worry about it. Like if your neighbor yells at them, hey, you don't belong here. They got their cards. They're citizens born here. Sauce, but don't be yelling at people anyways. J.B. & Sons Tree Service Landscape and Installation. You can follow them on Instagram at JMBARRIOS12. And I'm going to have the phone number for you guys. I don't know why I lost the phone number. But hit up my boys at J.B. & Sons Tree Service Landscape and Installation. Hey, everybody. Quick commercial for you guys. You know how we do it. We got my boy in the building tonight. I'm excited, guys. Hey, let's not wait. Ladies and gentlemen, in the building, we got J.D. Witherspoon in the building. What's up, my boy?
What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming down, dog.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was trying to get you a long time ago, but you were like busy on Mondays.
Yeah, I think it was like work stuff or something. But you also hit me Monday afternoon.
I know. I'm horrible like that. Because like sometimes I'm like, oh, man, I thought I had somebody.
Yeah.
See, but that's a good thing is because you were in my mind. I was like, you know what? I can get them quick.
Yeah.
Because there's always people hitting you up. Hey, let me do your podcast. I'm kind of like, look, no disrespect to you, but like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, there's that.
You know what
if
I
you
mean?
don't know them like that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I mean, I don't follow you.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. Yeah.
And it's you know what I mean? It's like, why do you think I haven't been on Mark Maron's? I don't know Mark Maron.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I mean, I think that makes sense unless it's just a thing where it's like, hey, I'd like to get you to know you through this. And then and maybe through that, it's like, because maybe we all know each other in passing,
Yeah.
Like I don't know him personally. I've definitely shook hands with him and a few other comics at the clubs. I don't know him personally.
Yeah,
but,
no, I know him as the same thing.
Yeah, I know his work.
But yeah,
I know,
but talk about like people think they can just hit you up. I feel like telling them, hey, homie, you know how many times Mark Maron told me to fuck off?
Yeah, that's true. No, I feel that. No, I think if your purpose is wanting to actually maybe dive in and get to know that person better on a personal level and on a way where it's like, oh, I have access to this person and they're cool like that, and I can share somebody else's story with your audience or your own audience. I feel like that's more the way to go about it. But if people are just bugging you, hey, bro, when you gonna put me on? It's what
are you gonna promote, dog? You do open mics once a week.
Yeah.
What are you gonna promote?
There's that.
The coffee shop player. But anyways, see, I'm curious to get to know you more.
Sure, yeah.
Where did you grow up? Where were you born?
I'm actually from here. I'm from LA.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I'm from California. Not I would say that's a majority, 90% of LA people who come from entertainment. If your family's in it, you're probably gonna be born here.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna be born here or New York. But I grew up out in the
Calabasas?
No. No, we never made that much money. That's Will Smith and Jaden money. That's not.
Yeah.
we made it close to Encino. We made it to Sherman Oaks.
Oh, okay.
Van Nuys and all that. Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but the Valley. I grew up out there, and I went to school between there and LA. So that's where I came from.
Hey, how is school in Sherman Oaks? Is it like when I went to high school, we had Samoans, whites, blacks, Indians, Mexicans. We had a couple Filipinos and shit. Is Sherman Oaks diverse or?
You know what's funny? I went to school a majority. I'm trying to think. So I went to school elementary school. I went to school in the Valley, Studio City. So you know that. It's where CBS and all that is.
Uh-huh.
That school was just a normal ass school. All kinds of different kids. It's the 90s. So there was not particularly one group or whatever. Definitely more white kids than most, but it was whites, Latinos, Asians, a few black kids. And then I went to school kind of closer to Sherman Oaks to a little private school, and then that one was predominantly white with a few other kids sprinkled in. And then I went over to Hill to what would you call this? It's right down the street from the store. Actually, it was the old Beverly Hills High, and it was called Pacific Hills. I think it might be gone now. I don't know.
Is
if
it
it's
a
still
school
there. It was a small little private school, only packed up about 300 kids.
Oh wow!
And it was the size of a parking lot. They had one basketball court, one building, and a parking lot.
Damn.
And I didn't like that school. It was way too bougie. It was something I think my mom wanted me to be going there or something. Or I think a friend of mine went there, and then my parents were like, maybe you should go there. And I was like, I kind of like it over here, and that's a long drive in the morning.
Yeah.
It's a 45-minute drive through traffic. Again, I'm 11. I don't get to dictate any of that. But so I remember going to school out there. But I met a lot of my LA friends from there because a lot of them.
Who went to school with you in Beverly Hills that's doing something right now?
Oh, doing something? I don't know.
Okay.
I know.
Did something. Or?
No, I knew. Well, I know.
It was only 900, right?
No, well, you know what? It's one of the things. I went to school with, that one lady who was in California Congress, Maxine Waters.
Nuh-huh.
Her grandson went to school with me.
Okay.
He's cool peoples. And then my homeboy, actually, he actually became somebody. He is the vice president of A&R at Def Jam Records.
Oh, wow.
My boy Noah Preston.
Okay.
And I still talk to him. He's the homie. And he's from L.A. He went to this private school. I'm not sure how he ended up there, but we both ended up there. We both hooped. He's the homie. He signed both Janae Aiko and Logic. He signed both of them.
Hey, Janae Eichel's fire.
Yeah, she's great.
She's like a little hip hop Sade.
Yeah.
Because she got a little heart in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the only. I know there's some other people who probably did or do stuff, but it was always that the parents of the kids were doing stuff. I think I went to school with who I believe was the son of the dude who made Ticketmaster, I think. So he was there. I didn't know him like
He must
that.
have not been cool if you don't know his name.
No, I didn't get.
Yeah.
Listen, you having a rich parent didn't mean shit to me. I don't know. Like, I don't know what we were going to try, what we talk about. But there was a few people that I remember going to that school. What's her name from Clueless? Who's like a black Trumper? What's her name?
Oh,
She's fine.
She's
too.
fine.
She's beautiful.
Something Damon.
But she's I forget her name off the top of my head. She was in the Kanye,
Kanye
video.
yeah.
Whatever. Her son went to that school.
She's fine.
Yeah. Also, the girl Garcelle Bouvier, her son went to that school, and she's the one who was opposite Jamie Foxx on the Jamie Foxx show, Fancy or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know. But I was there only for a little while. When my I would say family got more successful, they put all that I would say resources into my brother's education. He went to like a very like high grade school.
Okay.
I left that school because I really didn't like it because it was just small. I didn't feel like I was getting a high school experience. So I left in 10th grade and I went to the Valley to like this basic ass school that my cousins went to, and I was just like, I like this because it's just regular public school, and we just chilling.
Like recess is dope.
Yeah, the school was huge. It was whatever, but like you said, where you were saying there's all kinds of people. That school was a majority of Latinos, Mexicans, and Armenians, and they would be fighting all the time. That's like a thing to this day.
To this day,
yeah, they have a thing called a Mexican-Armenian War. That's what they call it.
You took your jacket off.
It's
for
hot, man, and but it's in the Valley. And what was this? I went to Grant High School.
Oh wow,
Grant High School in the Valley. It's not like it's a popular school or anything, but it's near. It's like I think their rivals is like North Hollywood High, and some of those Valley schools. They're all right. It's whatever. But yeah, that's that. I just remember going to those schools. I remember one time there was like a fight that broke out that became something bigger. They forced us to shelter indoors and wait till like an hour or two after school. I was like, bro, I could have just went to the parking lot and drove home. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Y'all got me locked in here now.
I already know right now a lot of my homie fans were just like, oh, why was this guy going to rich schools? When you talk about successful parents, dog, you have a very big shoes to fill. And I don't mean that with pressure. I mean that with just like utmost respect. His dad is John Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
OG comedian with the best of the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever meet Richard Pryor?
Nah, man, I think I was too, maybe as a kid.
Okay.
Maybe as like maybe there's a photo of, because there's definitely photos of my dad's friends holding me. There's definitely photos of that back in like the early 90s and whatnot. I never met Richard personally or just like if I could remember it.
Paul Mooney for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I met Paul. I met Paul a few times. He came by wilding to some house parties before and some little events and just being Paul Mooney. He was funny.
I don't know, like, how is Paul Mooney?
I would say I only had like maybe two like situations where I remember spending time. I think my parents threw like a Christmas party, and I remember one time my mom and my dad threw a party at this old art gallery that my mom used to run, and Paul Mooney, I don't even know how I don't know how this happened, but he was on a double-decker Hollywood bus with a cutout of his face, and he I don't know how he got the bus. I'm like, isn't that only in Hollywood off of like Sunset?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen those
Super
tour
favors.
but I don't know how he got that tour bus to Burbank. I don't know how that happened.
Dog,
and
that's
and for
crazy.
some reason he got it there. He got off, like they dropped him off, and he was like, "Oh, I've been having white women shouting at me all day. I've been having a great day." I was like, "What's I didn't know what was going on, but I was just like, "Hey, it's nice to see you, man." Like, young Spoon, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, he speaks with like different style slang. Yeah. Young Spoon. I like that.
Oh yeah, that's OGs, man. That's how they'll just, if they know. My thing is if I have like I would say a mutual friend who is more or less my dad's friend, they're all cool with me, this, that, and the third, but they either gonna call me by what my name is or by like some sort of synonym to my dad's name.
Yeah.
Johnny Jr., what you doing here? Yeah. And I'm not necessarily, I guess I am his junior, but I don't go by Junior. But it's just always funny.
Anybody ever call you Baby Bam Bam?
No. Okay, you mean Bang Bang Bang?
Bang.
I've seen nah. That never that. That's funny.
That's a trip, dog.
Yeah.
Like your dad is more than super famous. He's like super famous in more than one sport. Stand up, acting.
Yeah, it's funny. It doesn't, but I've never saw him that way. That's I don't.
He came home different, huh?
No, I mean, coming home different is one thing. I think my brain always equated, like, I absolutely know that he's famous, iconic, well-known, whatever you want to label it. But I think comparatively, sometimes he would work with people that, not to say they were, maybe in the sense of, like, being known, maybe they were more well-known, but I would say my dad had more of a personal impact on a lot of people. Okay. So there's that. Where I definitely see that now that he's gone and whatnot. But I think like in my brain, I would be thinking of like celebrities. I'm like, I'd be looking at my dad like, yeah, I guess you popular, but I'm like, you not them. Like, and my dad would always be like, oh, JD, you a hater, hating ass, hate player, hater.
That's fucking funny.
And I would be like, no, I'm not trying to hate, bro. I'm just like, where do you think, like on an A through D list celebrity, where are you supposed to be at? But that's, I think, just the perception of, at the end of the day, that's my dad. I'm never going to see him the way that other people see him. He means something different to me. Yeah. Like, he's not some sort of, like, parasocial.
Entertainment.
Yeah. He's like even with people telling me, like, what was it like growing up in the house? And I'm like, I was like, y'all must think that it's exactly what it looks like on TV. Yeah. He's performing. That's like, he's obviously got those characteristics and traits, and he brings that to those characters, but he's like not on. Like, he's not turned on.
You are a hater. Because my kids treat me like I'm your dad.
Really?
Nah, but I can understand it though. Like, I know what you're meaning.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of, I always will definitely explain to people like, oh, well, like I always tell people, the funniest person I know personally is him. I don't know anybody on a personal level who makes me laugh the way that he did and does. But for certain people, I know that would just kind of be weird, because it's like, oh, wasn't your dad on TV last night? And I'm like, oh yeah, like that's what like middle school, elementary school conversations would be, especially when he like came to pick me up. Or
straight up.
Yeah, or if I never really brought it up to a friend and then they come over to my house to hang out, and then my dad just kind of walks by through the living room. Yeah. I never really introed with that. I never thought about, even till the moment of him passing, I was like, there's only so many people who I know personally who I really have brought that up to. Like, I've known comics for like 8 years that I really didn't have a reason to bring it up for. And then when they pass, they're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that's who your dad is? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but,
Who did your dad think was funny? Did your dad ever watch comedians in front of you, like videos?
Nah.
That's movies?
No, see, that's I mean, he definitely had his, like, interests and whatnot, but it's weird. Like, I feel like all of us as comics, we all have different things that maybe either get us into comedy or whatever. I would say because he's, if I would call it this first generation, it's not like he really looked up to anybody in particular.
He's putting it down.
He was one of the first to start to like, because think about like, even think about like a Monday at the store back when he started,
so
and
this
now
is what, 74?
I think middle 70s.
Hey,
early,
was I good on that?
Probably.
I say let's just say 72.
Yeah, I'm not sure when exactly he started stand up, but I know it's between his mid early 70s to 80s. But I remember telling him, like, when I would go and do like the open mic, he would be like, oh, JD, how many people gonna be at the open mic? You like, back in my day, it was about 26 of us. 26 at the open mic for the Comedy Store. Wow. You ain't got no real competition. If you good, if you really good, you gonna just, your things will hopefully work out. But I was like, there's usually like 200, 300 signups, and this is like 2016.
Yeah,
maybe,
but it was so hot,
and
right
he
there.
was like, he's like, y'all got way too many people trying to do comedy. Yeah. I'm not saying that there weren't people who inspired him, but I don't know. Like,
I'm just trying to figure out like when your dad was chilling watching TV, like, who was he watching? Was he watching himself?
I don't think he would be like. I think it's that's like, I think a misconception about him. He was like all business and kept that business separate. Like stand up, he's not watching stand up at home.
Okay.
Because he's the performer. He's the guy. So usually he's at home sitting around on his chair watching like First 48, like random ass shit.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of he's watching stuff like that.
See, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, for sure. He would like know a majority of the comics that he came up with still, but I don't think he was like tuning in. Even like the way that I met Rogan was on a random whim where my dad, I told him I'm going to the store.
Didn't you do the podcast with your dad on Rogan?
That was all just kind of random. It was I would say it only started because I remember one night I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to head out. I got a spot at the clubs, and he was like, JD, who's even there? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, is there anybody I know? He's like, is there anybody at the clubs that I would know? And I started like listing off people in my head, and I'm like, well, I don't think you know like half of these people who are above my class, like who are in their 40s or something. Yeah. And he was like, I said, well, and this is like prime Rogan having like a Monday show. And I was like, well, Rogan does like a show every other day and whatever. And he was like, oh, Joe's there. Oh, my boy, Joe. I ain't seen Joe since 92. He was like,
he was there for a while.
Yeah, he was like, and my dad said, Joe used to open for me at Caroline's in New York. And he was like, if you see him, say hello. And I just took that and was like, oh, sure, whatever, man. And then randomly one night, I'm walking through the hallway, and I'd like kind of pass. You know, we all pass each other. And I just stopped Joe and just said, hey, this is random. No big deal. My dad just wanted me to say hi to you. And then he was like, oh, who's your dad? And I was like, John Witherspoon. And then Joe kind of gets like, wait, what the fuck? He's like, your dad's Johnny Witherspoon? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, and you're his kid? You do comedy? I'm like, yeah, I do comedy. He's like, that's fucking crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, no, for sure. And he was like, oh, dude, like, just respect, and just kind of went on with our night. And then a few weeks later, I think I went and stopped by one of my boys' shows at the Improv Lab just to see if he would throw me up. And Joe was in the upstairs and came down that little backstairs area, and I was sitting in like the back corner near the bar in the lab. And he passes me, and he was just like, he started like shitting on how bad the room is. He's like, fucking hate this room. This is where comedy dies and all that. And I was just like, yeah, I was like, it's a tough room. And then I was like, oh, I was trying to reintroduce myself, because I'm like, oh, you probably don't remember me. It's been like probably 4 weeks since we met. And I was like, oh, what's up, man? JD, we met. And he's like, I know who you are, motherfucker. I follow you on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you did. That's crazy.
Wow.
And then out of nowhere, he was just like, yo, you think your dad would ever, you and your dad would ever want to do the podcast? And I was like, do you want me to like just connect you with him? I'm like, I can do that. It's fine. Yeah. And he's like, no, like both of you. Like, I think it'd be tight to have like two different generations of comics who are family, father and son, come and do it. And I was like, oh yeah, you want me on there? Sure. I ain't nobody, And I think after that, I was like, yeah, no, for sure. And then he was like, all right, cool, take my number and we'll connect, and we'll see if we can find a date. And then we ended up, I think the first date, I think one or two of them might have been busy, and then we finally found a date, and then we made it happen. But it's funny because my dad almost tried to flake on it the last second.
No way.
Just being old. He was just like, I remember I got off from work.
How old was your dad when he was like 70 something?
It was the same year, 77.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. And I was hosting this daily game show for Facebook. So I had like this weird schedule because they didn't give a shit about me. I was the main host, but they didn't give a damn about my schedule. And they had me come in early in the morning, and then I had like a 5-hour break in the afternoon. And then we went live around like 6 p.m. or 6:30. And in that little break, I was like, well, I told my dad, all right, I'm gonna get off work, have this little break. I'm gonna come pick you up around like, I think 1 or 2 o'clock. We're gonna go to Joe's from like 3 to 4, and then I'm gonna bring you back, and then I'm going back to work. And when I came to pick him up, he was like, JD, do we have to go do this thing with Joe? I'm kind of tired. Maybe we could reschedule. I was like, first off, I wasn't pressed about the.
Hey, the pressure's dead on, dog.
Oh no, it's funny. It's funny because it's just me doing doing your dad. Because I do voice acting. I do voice acting, and I do like animated shows. I do ADR for Denzel on his films. Actually.
Oh yeah.
And I don't
hold on. What's ADR, dog?
It's audio. What is ADR? It's audio dialogue replacement.
Oh, wow.
So basically, when the movies are done and they can't get him back to do any extra recordings because they can't understand some of the words he said on the script, I've done that for 2 of Denzel's movies. Even though in my brain, I'm like, my Denzel's okay. But I guess I'm
Let me get some Denzel, dog.
Okay. So I think I'm better because when it comes to ADR, it's less of an impression. It's more of just trying to hit the vocal tonality.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of just making sure you can do the whole like, yeah, okay. All right, okay, my man. Yeah. All right. I see what you're talking about. Yeah. I can do it. I've heard better though. I guess in my brain. Also, I don't practice it. It's one of those things where it's like if I practice it all the time, that'd be one thing. Like my dad is one of those voices where it literally is just I can't tell stories without hearing it. So whenever I hear it, I start going into it.
Okay.
But no, I was just gonna say that one day where we were gonna go do Joe's pod, he literally. Like, as I'm coming to pick him up, starts complaining. And I'm like, man, if you don't get your old ass in the car, stop playing around. Because, one, I was like, I don't want to.
Can't cancel on Rogan, Pop.
I mean, he doesn't care or know.
Yeah.
It's not for him. He's like, I'm not worried about, like, he's just doing it from the perspective of, like, oh, yeah, I used to let the boy open for me. I'll go do his little radio show. He's not. And I just didn't want to just come off as a dickhead, just in the sense of, like, oh, I got a flake last minute. I just told my dad, I was like, bro, get in the car, man. Like, stop. And
he needed a little push.
Oh, no. That's just, he was at that age where he doesn't like, I think anybody who does entertainment, when you get old enough, you don't like doing anything for free. And I'm not to say that the podcast was some sort of free thing.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's age now.
It's just age. It's just like, these are the days I get off.
And I already got I'm done. There's nothing to promote.
But it was still fun because we had a great time. Joe had plenty of fun.
Well, you know what? We're going to come right back and talk about the podcast in a little bit, guys. We'll be back late. And we're back like a hood rat in the Cadillac waiting for the zigzag. George Press Stories is also brought to you by Taco Naso. Taco Naso is selling the best fish taco, carne asada taco, shrimp cocktail. Have you ever been to Taco Naso? Mm-mm. They got Bellflower. They got a location in Azusa, Rolling Heights. It's California's #1 fish taco.
Dang, I got to check it out. That sounds good.
Oh, it is bomb. They got shrimp tacos, carne asada tacos. They got potato tacos.
Yeah.
They got bean tacos. Hey, check them out. Taco Naso. Whew. It got hot in here, huh?
Nah, we good. We chilling.
That's what's up. So we left off on you and your dad. You're trying to get your dad in the car to pull up the Rogans.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And this is the old location.
Yeah, this the one out
kind of like Reseda or something.
Like Woodland Hills.
Yeah, Woodland Hills.
Yeah. Which is funny because a friend of mine actually used to rent that space out before Rogan was there, which is super random. A YouTuber dude.
Wow.
Yeah. No, but yeah, nah, man. He just tried. It was just goofy. He just tried to flake at the last minute, and I was just like, "Dad, get your ass in the car, man. What do you mean? We're not about to flake on Rogan." It not because it's Rogan. It was more just like I was like, "You said you do this, and you're not doing anything else, and you're just trying to be lazy." And also, I came all the way from work. I was like, I'll be the adult in this situation. Get in the car.
So, I kind of want to know because the experience for me was like I was very nervous.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say, is that what is doing Rogan what made you start doing your podcast, or were you already?
Yeah, I didn't even have a Twitter.
Yeah, no. Every time anyone gets on there and they're interesting enough, he's just like, "Why don't you have one? We should all have one. Everybody should." Yeah. And he's like, "Everybody need to be eating off of this. This is just us chatting and doing our thing." For reals. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband were the ones that pushed me.
Nice.
Yeah. Redband, and then Tony Hinchcliffe was like, "Look, George, it's GPS, George Press Stories. Just talk about." Because I did Joe Rogan. He said you can always bring like a friend that you did time with in prison or someone all these unique people. I was like, you're on to something, Tony. Yeah, Tony Hinchcliffe actually helped a minority.
Yeah.
Nah, none but love, man. I love the Golden Pony, dog. Yes, so, you guys get there and, Rogan spot's a trip, huh?
Yeah, nah, it was that big old hangar of a building. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I knew what it was before then. That's the funny thing, because I knew a whole production studio that was in there.
What was in there before?
My boy Philip DeFranco. He's on YouTube. He's got a big news show, and he goes by Phil DeFranco. But he was an OG YouTuber who was in there doing news segments and stories, and there was a point where YouTube actually started funding certain creators to make more content. So they I think gave him like some sort of like really big purse to create more original content, and then he made like a whole news network out of it. And then I think that died down after like maybe 5 or 6 years, but then he moved out of there and went to a different space. But it was just funny because then I walked into Rogan's. When I looked at the address, I'm like, I definitely have been here before because I'm friends with this dude. So I've been in and out of this building way before Rogan was doing episodes there. So I'm not even sure how long Rogan was there. It might have been maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I assume it wasn't too long.
No.
Yeah.
From what I know.
Yeah. But it was cool. And then, we got there, we hung out, big ass wolf in the front, all that stuff. And that
pool
was
table.
Yeah. And then we just had like a fun little long conversation about just,
Like what did he ask your dad? Because that's crazy, dog, because Joe Rogan was like a 1-2 year comic in, a couple years in when he met your dad.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. He was at all those questions are on his episode. They're still up, and Rogan's asking questions because he, of course, Joe respects the Comedy Store, and he's like enamored with everything that like Mitzi and them built. So it was a lot of questions about like just like how was it coming up there, and what do you do? What were you doing? What your role was, and being friends with like people like Richard Pryor, Red Fox, all that type of stuff, and my dad giving those stories, and then me chiming in every once in a while and whatnot, which was funny because that part was funny for me because even when Rogan asked us to do it, I was like, I don't have to be there if you don't want me there, and he was like, no, he was like, I think it'd be cool if you actually came through, and I was like, cool, whatever that means, I'll just be chill, hang out. If there's anything y'all want to talk to me about, I'm around, and but no matter what, at the end of the day, because I would say like how you were talking about filling somebody's shoes, I don't see it as filling my dad's shoes. I know that's not, you don't mean it exactly like that, because in my opinion, he's done his job. His shoes are filled. He's worked as hard as he's ever going to work, and not to say that people can't carry the torch or honor him. I think that's what I like to do. I'd like to honor his memory, but I mean, I can't be him. I know that. I'm never aspiring to being him or being better than him. I have to be my own version of myself, and I obviously can't avoid how other people perceive me because after him passing away, or even when he was around, if I feel like how like there's people who live like people say that people live in other people's shadow. I don't feel like that's what I'm doing or living, because at the end of the day, if I really wanted to, what would you call it, ride coattails, I would say that you would have known about me a long time ago. If it was one of those things where it's like, oh, my daddy's famous, can I get on?
Well, you also do acting, right?
Acting,
stand, you do what your dad does.
We it's one of those things where I accidentally fell into that same career. I never really wanted anything to do with it because I saw him doing it as a kid. And a part of me didn't want to, I think, do it just because I was like, oh, I get it. I know it. I watched somebody else do it. Another part of me was just almost considering the amount of time where he wasn't there. So a part of me was like, I don't really want to know that I got 30% of my life that's not going to be around my family. Because if we're being like realistic, he was home like every Monday through Wednesday and gone Thursday through Sunday, and I'm talking about till the end,
and recovering Monday through Wednesday.
So he didn't really want to do shit anyway. Like he was like I'll be honest with you, he didn't like. I'd be like, Dad, let's go see a movie. Oh, I ain't trying to go see no movie. And not like we didn't spend time with one another.
No, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, especially him, because he's old school. He like was blinders on with the way that he made his money. He's like, I know how to make money my way, and I don't want to deviate and try to do anything else this late in the game. That's a lot of work.
Wow, that's a crazy point of view.
Yeah, I mean, because even Rogan asked him when we were sitting there, like, well, John, why don't you do a podcast so you don't have to go do radio in the mornings? Like, you can skip radio by just putting it on your own schedule when you're going to be in places. And he just didn't understand all that.
Yeah.
And also, he's
like, I have to buy mics and a camera?
I'm sure he would call me and send me to go do it. But I mean, regardless of that, we did get a chance to have fun and branch out. Like, I helped him make a YouTube channel for him, and social media and other stuff, because the YouTube thing was for him to at least have some sort of creative outlet. And we did like a funny cooking show series that he called Cooking for Poor People. And he said, because he was poor when he grew up, and he said because when you're poor, everything tastes good. And
Where did your dad grow up?
Detroit.
Oh,
Yeah. He was in.
they're from Detroit.
Oh, where? Yeah. Well, he was from like I forget. I
Nancy,
forget.
right?
Yeah. I don't know what specific neighborhood my dad grew up in, but he went to, I think, Northwestern High School. Yeah. So, but it was not great. It was him and 11 other kids. He's a sibling of 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think he's like the middle child and whatnot, and he's like more or less the one who made it. There were a few others who did well. I think one became like a priest or a pastor, and then one of them was a few of them were musicians and worked in Motown.
Okay.
My uncle Raymond had the song The Broken Hearted that my dad always came out to on late night
That's
shows.
so dope. Backing brother up.
Yeah. So anytime he did Letterman, he would always play that song whenever they brought him up on stage. But I mean, he was like an OG who, I mean, even to the end, like always kind of thought that what he had earned could be taken away, and just had that kind of like poverty-stricken mindset of like, I gotta keep grinding.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't think that's a bad thing to have. But
No,
I think,
it's not.
I think it's just you gotta, with time, evolve and grow and learn how to diversify your income, so you don't have to always be the show. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully you can start making money while you
Like
sleep.
Elvis, dog. Elvis didn't diversify or nothing like that.
Yeah. I mean, and he did movies, obviously, but those are also work days and pay days, and residuals on those don't go super long unless you like wrote or created it. That's how.
Ain't that some real?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
Speaking of movies, your dad was known Friday hardcore.
Oh yeah. Cult classic.
How long did it take them to film that movie? Did you meet Ice Cube?
I was a kid. This is
Okay.
1995. I'm like 4. Wait, no. Actually, I'm born in 88, 88.
That's 6.
89. That's 90. 96 it came out. 95 is being filmed.
Yeah.
So I'm probably like 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And whatnot. I didn't get a chance to
Hey,
go.
he did part 2 and 3.
Yeah. No, I remember those, but I remember. From all I know is that I think that they shot that between like a 2 or 3 week span. But I think everybody got paid $5,000. That's like my.
That's
dad.
what I heard.
That's like
They did them dirty.
That's like 20
days?
20 days, 5 G's per actor outside of probably maybe Cube and Chris Tucker. I don't know.
Yeah, because Cube's a writer.
Yeah, writer creator. So yeah, no, for sure.
Him and Pooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
Who directed that?
Gary Gray, F. Gary Gray.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah, I believe so.
He got down. They could have used way better Mexicans. I was like, what the fuck, bro? All hating.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they were just accessories to a black story at that point. That's just how it was. Nah, but when you think like, OG black hood comedy movies, that's like the one.
Oh, the one of one. And it's like universal. Every race can watch it.
Yeah.
And be like, this is dead on.
Yeah.
You got to give Ice Cube props for writing that.
Yeah, now shout out to Cube.
Like he's a visionary.
Yeah, I mean, outside of even just making music all that time and then randomly being like, man, I'm about to write something about the hood. Like that.
They say he wrote most of the first album of NWA.
I believe that.
Yeah, he wrote all the Eazy-E stuff.
I think they kind of talked about that in that movie,
the
documentary. Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think about that sometimes because, like, right now on Instagram, a lot of people have been sending me messages and they're like, hey, George, people are using your jokes and they're making videos of it, or they're like making memes of your stuff. And I was kind of like, am I mad inside? But at the end of the day, fuck it, dog. I'm influencing somebody. Hopefully, I tell people when there's an Instagrammer that's not a stand-up comedian and they're only thieving because someone else told them or something, they're sooner or later going to give you a shout-out.
Yeah, or they won't make it.
Yeah, because you know what I mean, dog.
I mean, are you talking about somebody stealing your jokes, like performing them, or you mean like somebody?
No, acting them out, making a skit out of them.
Okay, those are weird. Those are weird.
Like, I don't know. This was in Mississippi.
I get it, but at the end of the day, it will make people go look for you.
Yeah.
Now, if I thought you were saying if it's like an up and coming comic who's just biting your shit,
no, nothing like
sucks,
that. I will address it.
Yeah, but the internet. I mean, that internet game is just. I say that as someone who, when I did start doing entertainment, mind you, I didn't even do it because my family was in it. I just kind of did it because friends were like, "You're funny. Why don't you do that?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, I know people. I don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was going to school to do art. I was like really deep into like animation and drawing and all that stuff.
Wow.
But then I just kind of changed gears because I had no idea how I'm supposed to turn that into a career.
Yeah,
because I was
video game am I gonna make?
Yeah, no, and I was just kind of like doing art for myself. Like I was good at it, but I was like, I don't know if I would put this up in a gallery or a museum, or if I'm.
And your mom worked in an art gallery.
Yeah, or if I'm supposed to sell it. So a part of me just started pivoting because friends were like, "Well, you're always funny and making us laugh
naturally,"
and they're like, "You're wasting our time in class when we should be learning." So why don't you try that? And I just on a whim. I had a friend who her mom was a commercial agent, and then she like signed me to her joint, and like I did that for however long. And then
what commercials were you in?
I've done a few actually over the years. I'm proud to say because them bitches be hard to get.
I heard they are hard.
I've done, but it's funny. In the beginning, I didn't get shit. Because, I mean, I think, one, you don't really know who you are. Same with, like, comedy. Like, as a performer, you don't realize that you're trying to almost convey what you think people should be looking at when it comes to you. And then the moment you stop giving a shit and you just do everything that you always wanted to do, that's when people start calling. Yeah, it's so weird. Because I would say worst advice I got was probably from my dad because he was explaining to me how he used to do it. And he'd be like, JD, well, you can't go out there with a beard. You gotta clean shave, brother. You gotta clean shave and get yourself a nice Quo Vadis. Clean up your hair. First, I don't know what the fuck a Quo Vadis was, but I guess it's like a fade. Like that's it's like an OG way to like talk about old black haircuts. And I remember when I first started, I was like, all right, fine, whatever. I guess yeah. Well, I used to have like braids when I was younger. I used to have cornrows that went all the way down to my shoulders, like between.
Oh, like that fool JD from BET.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
I forget, but like like Ludacris type shit.
Yeah.
Like those are people I came up with, like Ludacris, Hot Sauce from the N1 mixtapes, and like Iverson. Oh, those were I thought they were so cool. You know what I mean? They are. To this day, they're still cool. But I used to grow my hair out from like the age of 14 to 21. I didn't have. Like shorter hair. I grew it out for 7 years and I had my braids were long, bro. I was like, I love this hairstyle.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. It looks tight. But as I started transitioning into becoming an actor, I was like, oh, okay, this is like a world where if I do have this hairstyle around this part, it's funny because it's come full circle now and they don't give a fuck what you got in your head.
Hell yeah.
People are slightly more progressive, but back then it's like, oh, you're either going to play like an athlete or a gang member. That's just how it is. And
tell me about it.
I'm sure. But nah, man. I cut my hair, but then when I cut my hair, I started doing clean shaving all the time just because I was young and I guess I was trying to just look my age. But I grew facial hair when I was like 13. Like I had a full on almost goatee like in middle school. And it wasn't. And I went to a school where they did not want you to have facial hair. They tell you to go trim it. They tell you to go clean your. You
went to your own parent conference,
dude. Pretty much. But man, bro. But then I remember I cut my hair, and I didn't start booking anything really off of that because I was still trying to, I think, represent what I had been told is what I should be looking like to get a job in Hollywood. And my dad, I think, with the little advice that I did get from him, because it was hard to get it from him, he was speaking from his experience. So like if you're asking for advice, if anybody's trying to give it to you from what they did, it's not necessarily going to work for you because you're a completely different person. They can like kind of, guide you in like the type of like vicinity of where they think you could maybe have some improvements. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to learn it for yourself and try to figure that out as you kind of grow. And then I remember one time, I think it was like 2016, and I had booked a commercial or two before, but these were kind of like, I was not really the principal character. I was like the dude who like, kind of passes by the camera. Maybe he gets his faces in the shot. But then 2016
passes the hammer.
Man, yeah. Your arm get that. 2016, man. I just went to an audition and I was too lazy to trim or get a haircut or nothing. I was like, man, I'm not doing that. I ain't got time.
Yeah.
And I went there, full beard. It was longer than this, and I had my glasses on. And it was to play a dad role. And I'm like, I don't look like nobody's dad. I was like probably 20.
Hell yeah.
I was probably like 28, chilling. Next thing you know, I get a call back, and when I went to the callback, they had the script, but they had storyboards, and the storyboards were drawn like me from the first audition.
Wow.
I'm tripping out. I'm like, the fuck? Did they draw me into this show? Like, they already know they're gonna book me? I'm like, nah, this is weird. I went and did that callback, and then got a call the next day, and it was like, yeah, you booked the commercial. I was like, you telling me I should have just not given a fuck this whole time?
Yeah.
So
It's because you probably had like a natural look that they're like,
they saw it.
That's the one.
Dude.
Not that you were being fake, but they're like, everybody comes in clean like that.
I think everybody comes in what they, especially with breakdowns, because that's the dumbest shit ever. They don't know what they want. They write down a list of attributes that nobody fits. They're like, you should be tall, but not too tall. Like, you should be in shape, but don't be too fit. Like, that's literally what they put in these things, and then your ass will get a whole idea of what you need to be. And it's like, listen, I'll never be able to give you this, so I'll just put myself on camera and see what I can do. But it's funny. From then, I started booking, like, particularly commercials. I booked like that Best Buy, T-Mobile, random stuff. I shot one for Chrysler earlier this year, and those are great. Commercials are great. It's nice little like kind of like promotional for your resume. But I remember it would be at those moments where my dad would be like, "Oh, JD over here getting some paper. Okay." He'd be like, "Oh, that boy got him a commercial. I think I seen you on the TV, JD. All right."
That's what's up.
Yeah, no, those were always fun. And then when I booked this, because I had booked a few little like guest star roles and some TV shit, but then I booked this game show that I did in 2018 and 2019.
What's it called?
It was called Confetti. It was on, but it was like a digital game show for Facebook. It was on Facebook Watch, and if you ever played that game HQ Trivia, where it's like they got random trivia questions all day, and they're live for like maybe 30 minutes, and the people are trying to start from the beginning to the end, answering all the questions, and whoever gets to the end gets a piece of whatever the pot is for the day. So Facebook ripped off that original idea, and then they got me to be their host.
Oh.
And I did that show, and that was the first time my dad was like, I genuinely got some like, "Oh, I'm proud of you" type shit out of him, because he realized that I was doing what he was doing when he had started finally booking work in Hollywood, where it's like, oh yeah, I got like a day job, like an 8-hour.
Like it's really going down.
Yeah, well, he would just look at me and be like, "Oh, you got you a real job now, huh?" And that shit's hard. And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but I'm doing it."
What did your dad do first?
He used to, when he was, I think, at his beginning, did modeling. Or if you're talking about between stand-up and acting, it was acting first.
Yeah.
But it was like modeling, acting, and then stand-up because somebody told him he was funny. When he was younger, he did like some sort of, I think he's talked about it, something along the lines of like, I don't know if it was like a church talent show. And the guy who I think was running it was like, "I think you should go up there, maybe, I don't know, talk, tell some jokes, do something." And then he started doing that, and
the response was just like,
but you know what?
boom.
But the funny thing is, because I would ask my dad for advice every once in a while, but first off, he just didn't have he wasn't like that kind of dad where it's like, "Oh, I got all the tools, kid. Let me help you out." No, he grew up in really tough times with 11 brothers and sisters. He hardly got attention from his parents. So
yeah.
So I just remember when I did ask him for some advice on like, I remember I asked him one time, "Hey, why did you start doing entertainment, man? Like, was there something that drew you to it? Like, were you really passionate about something?" And he was like, "Passionate? Wait, huh?" he was like, "JD, I was what you'd like to call broke." And he said, "I saw an opportunity and some money, and I kept going." And like, because
He was a discovered gem, because I don't think your dad knew you'd go to Hollywood and all that. Like,
no, I mean, he figured that that's where he probably should go, either there or New York. But he went to L.A., I think, because he started hearing about places like the Comedy Store.
Wow.
And or at least I think that was his purpose, like in the sense of he probably heard of like Lenny Bruce. He probably knew who Red Fox was and heard of Richard Pryor. And he was like, "Well, maybe I could do that. Maybe I'm good enough to do that." And then I know he drove from Detroit to Vegas, got trapped in Vegas for 6 months because he blew all his money. And then he won it all back and went straight to LA, and then he put down 6 months worth of rent where he was going to stay to make sure that he didn't have any hiccups. And then he started. I think he went to the store and got a job.
He was working the door, right?
Working the door and being a host over there and all that stuff. I'm sure his friends would know it way better because they were there.
Yeah.
Because I the other night I saw Tom Dreesen and he was telling me like a few stories, and I told Tom, I was like, I gotta sit down and chat with you, bro. I just want to. I want to hear this stuff. But it was just so funny where I'm like, trying to get like advice as I'm trying to build a career. And my dad was like, well, brother, listen, I needed money. he like, you lucky you got me because you got money.
Yeah, it was a whole different drive.
It's whole different, dude. Same with even when I would ask him advice about like my stand up every once in a while. I would feature for him every once in a while. Like when I want to.
What kind of venues was your dad playing?
Clubs. Mainly, like he would like we had done Ontario, we had done Tommy T's.
Oh, Tommy T's, Pleasanton.
Pleasanton. He would tour all over. I know he did Europe once or twice because he got an opportunity to do it. But he was so comfortable with like, I can stay in the States, make good money, and then go home every other week. That's fine for me. But some of the more of the close like West Coast dates I would do with him in between when I was working and if I had time to go do it. And I would just go up there and either host it or feature. And I remember one time I did like a set and I came out after my set and I was like, hey man, how you think I did? And he was like, what? he was like, JD, well, sounds like they were laughing. So, maybe do more of that. That's all he said. I was like, which was hella funny. But it's funny if he did hear something he didn't think was that great, he'd let me know.
Okay,
that's
cool.
It was finally a little bit of context because I think one time I went up to feature and I didn't have the time to fill the slot. I think it was like a 20-minute slot and I had like a tight 12 and then I did like 8 minutes of like premises. Yeah. And he didn't dislike it, but he was just like, if you want me to tell them to give you less time, I'll tell them. He was like, but don't go up there and like guess through your material. He was like, I need you to go up there and do setup, punchline, get off. Like, that's what I want you to do. Wow. Yeah. Like, if you're going to feature, or I'll let you host if you want to fuck around. Like, that's what he would say. And I was like, okay, that's good. At least you're giving me something, even though it was, like, inadvertent. But,
I would have been like, hey, how'd you like those muddy waters?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nah. But it was good. I would always kind of just learn from, I would say, being, like, present and around that type of stuff. And I think that's why, like, even to this day, like, I don't usually doubt myself when it comes to some of the stuff that I do. And I think it's just because I'm lucky enough to have had family members where I saw it happening for them, where I'm like, oh, well, that's possible. Where I think, there's a lot. It's
very reachable. You've seen it.
It's very reachable. And I'm not even saying from the perspective of like, oh, it's reachable because I have like an in. Because in my opinion, people think, I've had people all my life tell me like, hey, man, you got your
I've never seen you floss your dad.
No, that's the thing.
Never.
But here's the thing. Because I can't floss a motherfucker who won't let you floss him. plus, it's not something I even thought to do. I was like, that's weird. That's a weird way to intro myself. Yes. And it's funny because even he would tell me that I should do it sometimes. And I'm like, but Dad, that's not the purpose of why I'm getting called in the room. I was like, if it comes up naturally,
this ain't a club.
Yeah, but I was right. I was like, if it comes up naturally in conversation, sure, I'll bring it up. But he would tell me that anytime I went out for an audition, he'd be like, "Well, JD, did you tell him I'm your father?" And I'm like, "No, I'm auditioning for like dish soap. They don't fucking care about you right now." He's like, "Oh, you a hater." But no, I always, big ups to him at any time where it makes sense or if I want to talk about it. But I don't know. I know a lot of people who were like friends of mine who were trying to be entertainers who would look at me and think like, why aren't you taking advantage of the relationship you have? And I was like, listen, at the end of the day, this ain't like a Will and Jaden Smith scenario. Like, if my dad wants to give me opportunities or help me get opportunities, it's more or less on him to put me in that position. I'll bring it up every once in a while, but like only if it makes sense. I would only bring it up in times where he would come to me and say, like, he would work on a TV show and he would come home and he'd be like, hey, JD, I was on set this afternoon and they got this boy about your age on the show. And, I was looking at them like, JD could have done this job. And then I look at him and I'm like, cool, man. Who's going to tell him that?
Yeah.
I'm not there. And then he's like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, just like, I'm like, but it was never, that was never my thought process. I feel like I was in such a different, like, it was such a different, like, landscape for me compared to him. Like, I started acting. I mean, I think I did a little bit of child acting because of my parents when I was a kid, and a little modeling. But
you got some Huggies commercials?
I did some Joe Boxers, and I got fired. I remember, Joe Boxer's the boxer. I had a model shoot with Joe Boxer, and I can still picture it to this day. But I had an issue as a little. I think I was like 7 or 6. I had an issue. Holding this little girl's hand. I thought she had cooties or some shit, and I couldn't keep it professional. I was like, no, I don't want to touch her. And they were like, get him out of here.
That's crazy. Well, hey everybody, we touched some crazy topics. We'll be touching some more right now. We'll be back late. Boom. Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back. George Perez Stories, episode 323. We got JD Witherspoon in the building. Yo, man, it's been cool, dog. I learned so much more about you.
I appreciate that.
Like when I first met you, I'm very standoffish, but I felt such a good vibe from you. And then later I found out you were John's son, and I never brought it up. And then we brought it up later, and it was all good. How are you liking this journey in comedy?
You know what? I think it's I like it more now than when I definitely first started. Because I don't think
you're finding yourself.
I think. Well, I it's weird. I can't say that I chose this path. I just kind of fell into
stumbled into it.
Even though it makes sense that I could be a part of it, but it was never like, as a kid I was like, oh, I'm gonna be like a art kid. That's my thing.
Yeah,
art or I loved video games. Not that I thought I would develop any, but I just was like, art and video games. That's my thing. And entertainment only happened just because I was just outgoing. I was just a goofy little motherfucking kid who just didn't know how to shut his mouth. So the acting thing,
but it's a natural talent.
Yeah, I appreciate. Thank you. I think that's another part of it. I always knew that when it came to being, how everybody who says they want to do stand up is like, oh, I'm the funniest in my group.
Yeah.
I never looked at stand up like that, but I knew that, like,
I can do this.
It was like I'm not even. It's not even about being the funniest in the group. I would always be the person who, like, anytime there was a conversation and I saw a small window to get I guess they were bits, like a bit in, I would just be like, almost like a sniper. I would just be like, kind of like let off something in the group and like see what happens. And then as I got older and started doing stand up, I started like throwing random jokes I had in my head that I was like thinking about telling on stage in front of like some people during conversations, just to see if they would laugh at it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I need to write that out.
It's a rhythm. It's like a cadence we create.
Yeah. I also think it's one of the things where you can't like force, specifically stand up. You can't force stand up on someone who doesn't like love it. Yeah. Because I remember I would try to force it on myself, and I was like, I don't really I like doing it. I like the feeling of doing it, but I always looked at it like, since it's not the most beneficial thing to me right now, I'm always putting it like on the back burner. So if I had like a more of an opportunity in acting, I'd be like, well, let me focus that energy there.
Yes.
Or if I had more of an opportunity in my like online career doing gaming content or comedy content on the internet, which is funny because I will say this, I'm not one of those like internet turned comics, thank God. Like because I know you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's one of them things where I was doing traditional entertainment for so long before I ever messed around with social media, and then I just kept doing the traditional stuff along with, I've got nothing better to do except create my own stuff, so why not just do them both hand in hand? So it's funny seeing friends of mine now who are like, in my opinion, on the grind of social media, because now it's like way more normalized to put out like your comedy and do all this other stuff. And they're all like, oh man, I'm editing every day and I'm doing this. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like looking at them like, yes, young grasshopper. Like I was doing that. I was doing that 10 years ago. I was like, bro, I was editing skits, editing gaming videos, editing vlogs, editing whatever. And I was doing comedy. I didn't think to film my comedy when I was younger. I filmed a few sets between like 2012 to 2015 just because I wanted to have it for myself. But then it wasn't like how it is now where
I lost 12 years.
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, especially because I was recording what I thought was, I'm like, well, you're just recording the same set. It's just the same jokes over and over. Like,
Ain't that some real shit?
I know, because back then first off,
You're trying to get that solid 7.
you're trying, or 10. You're
Yeah.
trying, that's my thing. I never, I think, took comedy as serious as I do now, and I think even now I could take it more serious. But it was
We all
like,
can.
well, yeah, it was like the comfortability of like, oh man, I got that tight 5. I could take that tight 5 anywhere. Then you turn it into a tight fit 10, 15, 20, and like some people will sit with that forever. Other people will start to build and continue to grow. But I just kind of got way too comfortable with having like a tight 10 or 12 when I first started. And I didn't want to challenge myself.
Yeah, it's like going to the club and that pickup line works every night.
Yeah.
Why am I going to change my pickup line?
Yeah. Yeah. And even when you get on stage, it's like, you know how to avoid bombing because you're like, I know what works.
Yeah.
Like, I know exactly when the laughs are going to come.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless you get a crowd that just ain't feeling it or they can't relate. That's something that
That happens sometimes. But then you learn later to be the better comedian, you have to get them to relate.
Yeah, you have to bring them into
It's
your
a
world.
learning process.
No, for sure. So I definitely care about it and work on it way more now, and especially with this like weird new boom of like putting out crowd work or your own stuff. Where
Yeah, I'm doing both.
I do, yeah,
Do both.
Yeah.
My recommendation.
My thing is, I don't burn material that I need. But if I have new premises that I'm just trying to work out on, but I got a good clip of it going around the first 1 or 2 tries, I'm like, oh, I'll put it out. But you know what's funny? Crowds are so much more forgiving, bro. Like crowds like 7, 8 years ago, oh, they'd be mad. They'd be like, don't be trying this weak new shit on us.
Yeah,
you know?
for real.
Yeah,
I
but
come from that era where they're like, hey,
and
homie, I didn't pay $20 if you'd ask me questions.
And see, that's my thing is I grew up watching somebody who came from an even older era where it was strictly professionalism.
Yes.
So I am almost like concerned when I think about doing comedy because I'm like, well, what I was taught was set up punchline, knock them down every time. Not to say that I won't do crowd work. Like I used to, I've hosted, and you've been on shows that I've hosted, and we have fun. But
I watched you at the Laugh Factory last time. I was impressed. I was like, oh shit!
I appreciate it. I think it's just the everybody kind of like almost putting the recliner back on getting a little too comfortable with it.
Yes.
Because like I like, you know, I'll say this myself. I'm such a like, I like to archive a lot of my work and even just moments. Whether it's like, you know, this podcast, I'll probably make sure I download it so I can watch it back, you know, or
cut some clips out.
Oh, I want some. Yeah, we had some fun ones. But I, you know, I'm such a like in the sense of having consistency. I'm always, every time I go out and I know I'm going to do any type of performance, I'm like, bring your camera, because what's the worst that can happen? You get a viral clip that helps you get tickets on the road, like. That's not going to hurt you.
It's how it works now.
It's literally how it works.
Like reels have turned into Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Fallon, Kimmel.
Literally.
No one's watching Kimmel no more for the up and coming comedian.
You know what's funny? Kimmel, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, Colbert, they don't even make the comedians look good. No disrespect to their programming. I watched like 2 of my 3 homies who got on Late Night recently, and I was like, bro, this late night set
did they turn the mic off?
or did the crowd? Are they muting the crowd?
Is the treble on?
I don't understand how they don't mic the crowd. Like you'll hear like a few little in the background. But it doesn't make you look as good as your own if you know how to shoot, like with a decent camera.
They do.
Or
they
if,
just
yeah.
don't.
Oh yeah. Or if you go do, you know, one of those don't tell comedy sets, whatever it is. Shit. That's the new Comedy Central right now. In this digital era. It's a weird place,
you know,
but it's fun.
This is my opinion. I don't think Comedy Central
is comedy anymore.
Is doing anything anymore. It's like, yeah, they own Levity, but it's like, what show on there? Like, even who's the guy? Noah.
Trevor Noah.
He left, huh?
Yeah, he recently. Yeah, that's my. We're managed by the same manager.
Yeah, like you know what's crazy is they made Dave Chappelle and Noah both go to Africa.
Well, no, they made Trevor go back. Nah,
like,
man.
Come, hey, what's going on over there?
I spoke with my manager about that, and I asked him why did Trevor want to leave, and not that this is like super juicy intel. He just said he could have either stayed and been Comedy Central's Trevor Noah, or he could have left and been Trevor Noah, who is like, he's Trevor Noah who's done Comedy Central, who's done Netflix, who has done this. Like, you become bigger than the thing that made you, type of thing. You stay too long, type of vibe.
Yeah. No disrespect. Trevor Noah does a lot of Russell Peters material.
Hey, I don't know anything about that.
I know. I gotta put it out there though. I gotta put it out there because I know.
I didn't know that.
Cody. Like, it's true, dog. And I've seen videos, and I was like, "What the fuck? This fool flipped it." But yay, hey, this is George Perez stories, dog. Hey man, it was so awesome to have you on.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Last minute. Not that this matters. It's funny because I've seen a comic who's in my class does a joke my dad used to do.
Dude,
it's weird. It's weird. It's so fucking weird.
Oh shit!
And it's like almost to the T. Like, it's weird. But I'm like homies with him. It's not that deep.
Does he know that's your dad?
I don't. My thing is either it's like-minded thinking, or it's one of them things where, listen, at the end of the day, he probably like, oh, he dead anyway. What are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
You know what's weird when you say that is when I went to prison, there was a comedian that didn't like me, and he thought I was gonna stop doing comedy, and he started giving all my jokes as tags to other people's like comedy. And I remember coming out of prison going, you know what? I'm so fucking glad I recorded some of my sets. Like, right, dog?
Yeah.
I did this shit in 2009. Mm-hmm. Here it is. And then I figured out later who that comic was. And I'm not going to promote him, but he got kicked out of the store. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Comedy's messy, man. I mean,
yeah, it is.
But that's
Some
entertainment.
people, yeah.
That's just entertainment.
Hey, no, the Patriots were fucking stealing fools' practice videos, right? And then
they were deflating balls.
Yeah, and then Houston
and then they won too. Didn't they win that series?
Yeah.
I don't know how they won that. That's crazy.
I want to say thank you for coming out.
Yeah, man.
We barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, no. We'll do some more. We'll do a future podcast.
Where can all my fans follow you at? What shows you have coming up? Please promote everything.
Absolutely. You can find me on every platform at JD Witherspoon, JDWITH Witherspoon. If you like video game stuff, I do things under the alias at RunJDRun. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I don't have anything crazy coming out. When does this come out? Is it
tomorrow?
Tomorrow. If you want to come to a show in Long Beach, I got a show at the Long Beach Laugh Factory on the 18th, and I may or may not be getting up at some other clubs here in LA during the week. So definitely check me out on socials, and I'll be reposting.
Hey, would you be down to host or feature for me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get you on some too, dog.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Fire.
Hell yeah.
I would love that.
We throw some little salsa in your life.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Hey, hold on. I used to date a Latina girl. Listen.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day.
What was her name?
Jennifer, but
Okay,
Yennefer.
Yennefer.
No, that's funny, man.
That's what's up. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. July 22nd, I will be at the Search Bar in San Diego, Chula Vista. It's already pre-sale sold out. There's only 50% of wholesale tickets left, so maybe that's 35, 40 tickets left, guys. Thank you so much for supporting. August 19th, 10:30, I will be headlining the Ice House. Also, Wednesday, July 12th, I'm headlining the Belly Room at the Comedy Store, The Dirty Show with Hormos and Saul Trujillo. And I got other stuff coming up, but I don't know. I haven't signed the dot yet, so we'll let you guys know.
Yes, sir.
This is George Perez Stories, episode 323. I want to give a shout-out to Gunther's in Santana, Taco Naso, La Venedita Market in Whittier. And with that being said, take a shower, Black Power. Late.